What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another live stream, an edition of the panel, since it is our pay-per-view week for UFC 287. Live from Miami, Florida, we have the rematch. Alex Pereira, reigning defending middleweight champion, welcoming back his rival, Israel Adesanya, to the octagon, seeing if Adesanya can right the wrongs of his kickboxing and mixed martial arts career and finally get a win over Alex Pereira. Joined alongside my co-host for the pay-per-view panel, Mike, aka the CouchWarrior podcast. How you doing, my guy?
Chilling, Pat. Happy to be here. Pretty decent pay-per-view to talk about, and a good guest, fire guest, with a surprise for everybody, I think.
A guest, singular guest. We were supposed to have Liam Picks Fights. I was not just clout chasing, saying he would be here. We did agree on it, but he goofed up his schedule. And instead of being in jiu-jitsu class, he ended up going to, what was he doing? Like a baseball game or a hockey game or something with his pops, I think. So he could not make it back on time. We'll get him back at a later time. But there's a lot of like potential submission specialists on this card. So I was hoping to pick his brain. Sometimes when there's like these newcomers to the UFC, I'll hit up Liam in the DMs, be like, yo, is this person legit from like a trained eye? But speaking of trained eyes, we've got a trained eye for gambling. LouBetya in the house, carrying the weight of two men, the charisma of two men. And he's covering up a potential surprise. What do you got for us, Lou?
Well, hello, Patrick and Mike. How are we tonight? It's me, Mario.
Yeah.
Happy
Zoom in on that.
Here.
It's Tom Selleck.
This will be the first of two appearances that Mike and I are on camera, since he is on the prop show next week with one Johnny K-Picks. So I'm very excited for that.
Wait, with Johnny K-Picks?
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one.
Just doubling up the talent now, man. It's just like the waiting list is too long. I'm doubling them up. Excited to break this card down. I found some good spots. Don't love the main event from a betting perspective. Don't love a couple of fights from a betting perspective, but I do like the fights. Like, I'm excited about a lot of things on this card. So,
no, I could not agree more, man. Like the money lines, when I was researching this card last week, even, it was like there was not a whole lot that was sticking out. Like some of the money lines seemed appropriate. Some seemed wildly ridiculous and just no way to attack it. The props have dropped. I do have some props that I'll talk about, but yeah, man, great to have you, Lou, representing the MMA engine. If you guys don't know who LouBetya is, one of his specialties is, his shows that he does during the week. Not only is he doing a props to consider and then maybe bet show on the MMA engine where he has like high value, fun props, the props that he says get you out of bed in the morning, but also he does the new show that you started doing, the same game parlay, DraftKings special type of show.
yes,
got any same game parlays you like for this card that we're going to get into?
I do. I actually have two that aren't out yet that I love. Nice. Although one you can do is a parlay already on DraftKings. It's a pre-program one. It may pay a little better once they release it. But I do have some ideas. And that will be tomorrow night at 10 p.m. with my co-host, the very adorable and very Canadian Gordo Gambles.
Oh, nice. That'll be a sick duo right there. Before we go any further into the first prelim of the night, let's shout out the chat real quick. Love to see my guy Eric Betts Fights in the house, saying he is first. So good to see you, Eric.
He literally texted me to want to ask what we were doing. I'm like, I'll do it one.
Good to have you, Eric, man. I miss you greatly. Daz Files in the house saying, great card. Let's fucking go. And yes, only 100 subs to go before 1,000. I appreciate you supporting the channel as always, Daz. Somebody who's been here since the very beginning. My guy Cucumber in the chat, feeling blessed to be here. I am as well. Papa Chuck in the house, saying, hell yeah. My girl, Jenna Marie, the certified gem of MMA Twitter, saying, what's up to my guys, Pat and Lou. Hello, CouchWarrior. So good to see you. My guys, Victor, J. De Jesus, some of my favorite people in one room. You're one of my favorite people too, Victor. Good to see you in here. Jenna showing love for Lou's stash. Mr. D, Mushroom in the house, saying, what's up, Patrick, Lou, Ed, Mike. So without further ado, let's break into the first prelim of this 13-fight card. An exciting women's strawweight bout because we have the debut of the Brazilian Jacqueline Amorim taking on returning fighter Sam Hughes, who's been in the UFC, like 5-6 times now, going negative in the UFC overall. But man, is she a big step up in competition for Jacqueline Amorim, who's fought kind of like a mixed bag of talent so far, coming out of the LFA as their champion there? I'm not so sure, but at least Sam Hughes has seen the later parts of a fight and has, proven cardio and toughness in a fight. Jacqueline Amorim, certainly a submission specialist, world champion in no-gi and gi jiu-jitsu, usually mauls her opponents to the mat and taps them out pretty quickly. So What are you guys seeing for this one? Right now, the odds are pretty wild. It's like, what, minus 250 for Jacqueline Amorim right now, making her debut and has never left round one. So I'm always suspicious of that. I do think she gets the job done, but kick it off to our guest first. Lou, anything from a gambling perspective on this fight that you like?
Why, yes. I'm glad you asked, Patrick. I do see some people included. I think, Mike, you were on the under 2.5 as well. No? Okay. I was going to say, for everybody who's taking the under, don't take the under. If you're going to take the under, just take Amorim submission. I'll tell you why. If you've listened to anything I've said this year, and there's a good chance you haven't, one of the things that I've been working on, like, when you go refine the process, I'm bringing this up now because it's going to come into play later as well. I've been trying not to bet unders or in the distance props against undefeated fighters in the regional scene. We don't know how they respond when they get into some kind of adversity, but we've seen it. The Rebecca fight, the Argueta fight, the Prado fight, where everybody had Malarkey under, and I'm like, just be careful on this one. So here we go again, where we have Amorim. She looks like a killer. I think she wins by submission. But I'm saying is, if you're taking the under for the sole reason of having the backdoor of Hughes late, I just like Amorim to get it done early. I know she's only had 6 fights professionally. I know she's never gone past the first round. We don't know what her cardio is going to look like past the first round. She might be fine. And she's incredibly credentialed for her level. I mean, this is not like an average 6-0 person going on the Contender Series. This is a credentialed BJJ practitioner. I'm going to bring up one more fact before I'm done here. Sam Hughes at the UFC level has lost every fight where anybody's even attempted a takedown against her. Not even landing them, attempted. Okay. So I'm pretty sure Amorim's going to be attempting a takedown in the first 30 seconds of this fight. I don't love her takedowns. I do like her grappling, but I don't like her ability to get somebody down. But we'll see if Hughes accommodates her with her. Historically, even though she's probably working on it, poor takedown defense. So give me Amorim. Give me the sub. It's plus 150 on DraftKings. I'm sure there's better prices out there.
No, I like the take. I've seen you dodge a lot of bullets, Lou, this year by, staying off of that, just assuming it's going to go under because we haven't seen a newcomer, not go to the scorecards. And that's something that I've fallen victim to in the past. Mike, what do you like on this fight? You taking the dog here with Sam Hughes? You think she can, win this down the stretch or not?
I'm doing this one way and probably just one way only, just because it's a hard fight to predict. Whenever you have a fighter making their debut, never past round one. You mentioned the competition, Pat. I think it is a big step up. None of the women she's fought are as good as Sam Hughes. Ashley Nichols, her last fight is okay, but she's a boxer. So her submitting a boxer to me doesn't mean anything, really. Right. Sam Hughes, she's nothing special. But if she survives and, can she get subbed in round one? Yeah, and it's a very real possibility. Plus 330 right now I saw in Bet Rivers. I kind of like that, and I considered also putting that. But my main thing is I just want Sam Hughes round 3 KO plus 5,000. I ended up doing 0.2 units because I got greedy and I want to win 10 units if she pulls it off.
Can't hate on that.
And the logic is really simple, Sam Hughes, she's got that dog in her. She's the better striker. And if we get to round 3 and Amorim's cardio is a problem, I think Sam Hughes will be live to get the finish. Don't think it'll be a sub. It'll suck if it is, but that's the only way I want to do it. This is such a weird fight. Amorim should win on paper by sub, but things don't really happen like they should. So I guess my pick will be Amorim, but the bet is Sam Hughes round 3.
Yeah, those round 3 props are juicy for a spot. Yeah, like we can at plus 5,000. I mean, you can kind of imagine things going poorly down the stretch. Say Amorim has to grapple Sam Hughes around and somehow, maybe her cardio doesn't look like it should, after round 2. I could see that angle, but for plus 5,000, why not take at least that little stab on it, like you said? So I'm with you guys. I think it's Amorim is the pick here, but to trust at minus 260, minus 265, a debuting fighter with a lackluster resume of her opponents, just can't do it. But I think she does steamroll through Sam Hughes here. Shout out to my guy CT in the chat, my guy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast saying, "What's up, boys? Always good to have you in here, Clint." My guy Jared and Aaron, the Dog MMA. Everybody go take a second to subscribe to Aaron, the Dog MMA's channel. He does awesome work. He does a show with Just My 2 Cents and LouBetya himself, an awesome show that they do. I have to catch up on. I think you guys did that today, right?
Yeah, I talked about how something was an appendix B of the Torah, so I got that joke like out of the way. It was a natural. It was brought up naturally. It wasn't forced.
Of course, of course. I'm sure you didn't force any humor. And shout out to my guy Shady in the chat. My guy Justin Villegas always making an appearance, a must-have in a lit chat, the best chat in the game right here on this channel. Ryan in the house. My guy Jay Border Rage in the house as well. Prince of Mischief, Shark in the house as well. Cody, my guy Charles Barkley in the house as well. Rob Lawrence, man, everybody's piling in here nice and early on the first fight of the night. But we can move on to the next fight, which is, and you know, this is an interesting matchup because it's another spot where I think that I've got a clear side I'm picking here. Nuerdenbieke taking on Steve Garcia at featherweight. I'm on the Shayalan side. I think he wins, but I think the money line could be closer. You know, you've got minus 200 or so for Nuerdenbieke, or has that moved now? I think it's moved down a bit. I'm seeing minus 180 to minus 190 for Nuerdenbieke on some books, about plus 150, plus 160. Steve Garcia, I mean, that seems more correct to me, but again, it's just like if this stays standing for any extended period of time, I think Steve Garcia's boxing is actually not bad. It can be wild, but it's not bad. Nuerdenbieke is so low output on the striking, but I think he takes the fight to the mat, and that's where we've seen Steve Garcia struggle. So nothing I'm too excited to bet on either side. I could see this going very poorly for either man. Do you have a more confident take on this one, Mike?
No, I took the under. That was my first move, under 2.5, minus 145. It's just about there still. There's a concern that Nuerdenbieke, you know, he's not the best finisher at this level. He could just grind out a decision, and it can go the other way too. Like, the reason I'm not betting Nuerdenbieke, even though I think he wins, is Garcia's the better striker, right? That's pretty certain. And he can grapple too. He can wrestle too. And Shayalan has been taken down himself. So that's why I'm also hesitant to play his money line. I considered parlaying him. Minus 180, no. If he gets down to minus 150, I might do it because I do think he has the better wrestling. But there's concerns, right? Especially also, like, is he doing a lot of damage from on top? Sometimes, but not always. And with the judging recently, just control time with no damage doesn't mean much. So that's why I'm hesitant. The under, I like it. I think both guys can finish the other. Garcia hits like a train, but also has his just chin up in the air. Nuerdenbieke, he's got power at least and a decent ground game. So we'll see. I like the under, but that's probably all I'm going to have here.
Lou, how about yourself?
I got two angles on this one. I like Garcia, no scorecards, plus 180. I think he has the bulk of the finishing equity. I like CouchWarrior's play with the under because I do think Nuerdenbieke could finish Garcia. He's prone to make mistakes, but there's a better bet that I like here odds-wise, and I know Mike likes this prop, so see if I can sell him on a plus 600. Garcia and under 1.5, and I bring this as plus 600, and I bring this up because you have to go back to his first win almost 10 years ago, the last time he won by finish that went past the 7.5-minute mark of a fight. Like, he's first round or early second round. I realize he screwed around with Ontiveros. It's probably a little too long, but all his finishes are immediate. And even the way he fights is like, he didn't give an F. Like, he just runs in there and just winging fists like a tornado.
That's why that Chase Hooper fight was such a gift for him, right? Because Chase Hooper kind of brought himself to Steve Garcia, who just couldn't miss in that fight.
And one thing we've seen with Shayalan is he's a slow starter. I mean, the TJ Brown fight, he was slow starter. Soriano, who is a gas bag after 5-6 minutes anyway, but Soriano, like, dominated the first round. So Shayalan gets, you know, I don't want to say he gets in trouble in the first round. It's not like he's been in jeopardy, been finishing those fights, but he doesn't have a sense of urgency early. And Garcia is literally the only way he knows how to fight is with a sense of urgency. So I could see Garcia getting him out early. And look, if this thing does become Shayalan just grappling him and like laying on top of him second and third round, then you're going to get your money back on when this thing goes to the scorecards. I think Garcia is also like a really interesting, on a tough week, he's a good DraftKings play because his ceiling is like insane, and he's one of the cheapest guys on the slate at 7,300. So wanted to my partner Monk has instilled this in my head. So,
yeah, I had him on the stream a few weeks ago, and now I'm starting to think in those ways too. Now that I've started dabbling, at least putting a few lineups every week too. Not investing a whole lot at this point. I'm still kind of bad at it, and those short notice drop offs like mid event always just screw me over and leave a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm leaning towards Nuerdenbieke decision in this spot, but Nothing with any sort of conviction. I could see the over certainly hitting here, and yeah, I just stylistically, I think Nuerdenbieke should win this fight. My logic is telling me that, but I could see Steve Garcia starching him early as well. And I see the chat is pretty well split as far as the same thing that you guys have just brought up. Garcia early, or like my guy Shady says, Nuerdenbieke potentially late by decision as well. So yeah, we can move on from that one onto some more fun here.
Do you guys think Garcia has decision equity at all in this fight? Because
yeah, I think so.
He could.
It depends on how late Nuerdenbieke gets the takedowns, right? Like I've seen Steve Garcia always struggling the grappling, but if you watch even as far back as the Ricky Tercios fight back in I think Bellator, he was able to avoid the takedown, but he was stalled and stalemated. So like Mike said, if there's not a whole lot going on with the grappling offense, they'll probably just count the strikes in favor of Garcia. Mike Jones, an awesome fight there. We'll get to it very, very soon once we get onto the main card, my friend. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. My whole thought on Steve Garcia as a fighter is I'm very confused by him. I don't know if he's good or not yet. You know what I mean? So speaking of, this is somebody who I thought was potentially a live underdog a couple of weeks ago. Trey Ogden taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. I know Lou does not like Trey Ogden very much, but I was picking Trey Ogden to win, but the fight against Manuel Torres got canceled. Now he's got a much tougher test, in my opinion. Ignacio Bahamondes, giant for the weight class at 155 and this Saturday 160. 25 years old, 6'3" for the Chilean Bahamondes. Very good kickboxer out of both stances. Powerful. We've seen the finishing potential from him. And last time out, we saw him, actually slap on a front choke and get a Bravo choke on Zhu Rong. So Trey Ogden, a grappler, pretty much a one-dimensional grappler. I'd say his striking is better than people give him credit for, especially defensively, but this is a big test, man. The output from Bahamondes should be there. The power should be there. But the money line is, it's a big one, man. They're charging us minus 345 on Bahamondes on DraftKings. Trey Ogden could be head around that plus 280 underdog price tag. Lou, do you think Trey Ogden can get a submission in this fight? How likely do you think that is?
I don't like Trey Ogden. I don't rate him highly. I still can't get over that he got outstruck by Levitt. I mean, I don't really he's had 2 fights in the UFC. What do you make of the guy? If the guy throws some volume, he loses. If he throws no volume, he wins. It's not going to be a problem with Bahamondes, except Bahamondes is going to throw more kicks probably than, Levitt threw kicks, but Bahamondes is going to throw actual kicks with malicious intent. When I broke down the fight with Torres, I was on the Torres side. I don't really like taking, the first rounder buffs guys. We're talking about making an exception for Amorim because against her credentials. But with Torres, the whole narrative is Ogden's never been knocked out. But what happens is you hurt him and he dives in for really ill-advised takedowns. That's where he gets choked out. I feel like that's kind of live here too. I know Bahamondes is a totally different fighter. I don't know how I'm going to really play this. I think he's a safe parlay piece at -3, expensive parlay piece. The only concern I really have with Bahamondes is the distance, between fights. I know he was supposed to, and this is what an odd progression. Supposed to face Ludovic Klein, which would have been pretty cool striking battle, 2 guys with great kicks. Then then that goes away. Then he's supposed to fight Mata. That's okay. That could be cool. And then he's supposed to fight Ogden. How did it get so stylistically more boring? Because Bahamondes is a fun fighter, when he's active. So
yeah,
I think he wins. He's a parlay piece at worst. The subs plus 700. It's all right. If he's gonna get a sub, it's probably gonna be early.
I thought about that too.
So I don't know if I'm gonna get there, but I like Bahamondes I don't know what Ogden's gonna do. Bahamondes on the ground he's not shabby.
No, he looks very good, and that was one of the props I was really looking at. And like you said, parlay piece, I totally agree. I didn't find anything this week to pair him with that I liked that I wasn't already invested on, so didn't want to double up. But I do think he's one of my more confident picks in this card. Mike, do you agree?
Yeah, I stuck him in one parlay for a unit, and as you highlighted, Aaron the dog, I like Ignacio by decision, but looking at the price, it's plus 150, plus 170. I'm almost tempted to just go with the fight goes because it's also plus money. It's plus 100. And that way you're covered if Ogden ends up getting the wrestling going. So I think it's worth kind of sacrificing the little bit of change that you're losing. But I think that's something I'm looking at. For the people that are saying the sub for, what's his name? Bahamondes, he's only got 1 sub. That's it on his record. So I wouldn't really go too hard on it. I know Ogden's been subbed like 3 times, twice by the same guy with the same damn guillotine. So I get it. But I do think it goes the distance. I think Bahamondes is the way better striker. Ogden, like it's funny looking at his fights because against Jordan Levitt, right? He gets outstruck. Levitt lands like 60 strikes, and like 55 of those or something like that are leg kicks. Same thing happens in the Ogden fight. The Zelluber fight, but the other way. Ogden lands like 60 significant strikes, and like 50 of them are leg kicks. That's not going to work here. I mean, Zelluber came in there. A lot of us were on him. I was on him, and he threw almost nothing. Ogden won that fight with almost purely leg kicks. He didn't get takedowns. He's supposed to be this great grappler. He's got all these subs, like 11 or 13, and he went 1-9 on takedowns with Zelluber, 1-4 with Levitt, and I'm pretty sure it's a 94% takedown defense for Bahamondes, something like that, something high. But has he faced the best wrestlers? No, but the guys he has fought, they have some grappling. Roosevelt Roberts has shown some wrestling, and he murked all of them. On the feet, he murked them. If this remains on the feet, I'm going to feel bad for Ogden. I think he's going to get really beat up. He's never been knocked out. That's why I think a lot of us like the decision prop or the fight goes, but it can happen here. I think the KO is more likely than a sub from Bahamondes, but if I do play something here other than the one parlay I have with him, it'll be fight goes.
Yeah, I kind of see the talk of the submission from what I think Lou mentioned this in the beginning of his breakdown is, say he hurts him on the feet and then Trey Ogden shoots for like a desperate takedown to get out of danger and then gets the front choke wrapped up against him. I could see that happening here. What's the inside the distance?
Landwehr didn't have a lot of submissions either going into
right inside the distance. Yeah, see, they're forcing us on the side here because inside the distance for Bahamondes, I mean, it's a good discount. You're getting plus 110 around that for Bahamondes. That chops down that minus 340 money line, but there's just so many different ways this could happen. Maybe Trey Ogden is. How long has it been since we've seen Bahamondes? It's been a little bit, right?
A year. Mike, what price would you need to consider the sub? Like, what price would it be worth it to you?
I think
plus 1,000 or more, I would play it.
Okay.
I like it where it's at now. I might even throw down on that, to be honest, but I don't know. I'm so confident in Bahamondes winning this fight somehow that I don't feel the need to like sprinkle things around. I think it's a good parlay piece, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of sharp people on the overs and a lot of sharp people on the unders as well. I don't really know. I'm confused by it. I just think he wins, but the money line, it's just, dude, I'd feel weird because I'm starting to get flashbacks of the Zelluber fight as well. Like, Trey Ogden was able to, I think I give him more credit in that fight. He was able to put Zelluber on the back foot. Zelluber, maybe a little bit of octagon jitters. Probably won't be getting that from Bahamondes. This probably looks like how that Zelluber fight should have played out. So, yeah, I think Bahamondes by something violent here. So, yeah, we can move on from that one. Do you guys have any action personally in that fight or no? Not yet.
Just the one parlay. I'll talk about the second leg when we get there.
Okay.
I don't have nothing in yet. Like that's all tomorrow morning. I've been waiting for some of the props to come out before but nothing's moving against me line-wise, so it's all right.
Yeah, that's good. We can move on to surprisingly, this is a women's strawweight fight, even though we have Cynthia Calvillo, who's been at flyweight her past few. She's taking on LouBetya Godinez. Another spot here where we just talked about, we're talking about Zelluber last time as a big favorite, shit in the bed on us. LouBetya Godinez did that for a lot of people at UFC San Diego. I think that was last August. LouBetya Godinez, attempted her least amount of takedowns ever in a UFC fight against Angela Hill, who was kind of threatening her with knees and counters and just moving laterally and just outpointed her. And the fight fell away after round one. Godinez suffered that decision loss as like a minus 300, minus 350 favorite. Cynthia Calvillo is on a 4-fight losing streak now, and now at 35 years old and the momentum of her career crashing, doing the move that a lot of people at this point take. They drop down a weight class, see if that will like reignite the flame of their career. But she missed weight the past couple of times that she tried to make 115. So hot, not so hot take. I don't think she makes weight. I would not be surprised if she doesn't make it to the fight. Skill for skill, I think they're very similar at their bests. I don't think Godinez is as great as like a minus 300 money line would indicate last time out. Now it's dropped down and she's a minus 280, but it's still getting back up there. So not crazy about the Godinez side. I think she wins. I think she can employ the grappling, but man, if we see like a shadow of what, not a shadow of, but like if we see like the return to form of Calvillo back when she was kind of hitting her stride and getting wins, I think skill for skill, Calvillo might be a little bit better. But given all of the momentum, in a 4-fight losing streak, I can't get behind her in this spot at 35. So give me Godinez to maybe look a little bit more improved and go back to her roots of throwing people to the mat. Mike, you're usually big on your female underdogs, your hot takes. Are you taking Calvillo here?
No, that was my gut reaction to the line, right? I did fade Loopy in the Angela Hill fight. Super proud of that pick. I'm a big Hill fan though. Like since day one, since I started gambling on UFC, it was literally the card where Hill fought what's her name? This is back in 2020. It was someone good. Hill was plus 300, and me and my brother threw her in like a 10.
Was it Lemos? Was it Lemos or
no? It was before then. It was the woman hasn't fought. I'll look it up once I stop talking, but pretty much we put her in a parlay. Hill, she lost the split, but ever since then I was a fan because she should have won that fight. She was plus 300. And Pat, you're muted, brother.
Was it Michelle Waterson? I know they fought in a 5-round.
Before. I'll look it up just because it's driving me crazy now. Yes, Gadelia, boom. That fight. So, yeah, but back to this one. I couldn't get there. After watching the tape, I really wanted to like Calvillo, especially because, look, she hasn't been taken down since 2017 in her Carla Esparza fight. So, is Loopy going to have a lot of success with the takedowns? It's hard to tell. I think she will have the success there. Can she hold her down? I think so. For me, it comes down to this. Because I think the grappling is going to be just about even, maybe a slight edge to Loopy, I got to think who's got the better striking, and I think it's Loopy. So I actually like Loopy as a parlay piece, which is surprising. I don't like minus 200s in the women's range. I know I've done stupid things like minus 900 on Valentina Shevchenko, but normally, I don't parlay minus 200, 250, 300 women's favorites, but I feel relatively comfortable with Godinez. I think it's a good matchup for her. I know a lot of people love her finish here, or I think the KO prop is like plus 800 or something. I get it. I decided to just parlay instead. I almost did her decision prop, but I kind of get the angle of the finish. I just don't think it happens. So, yeah, I'll stop talking. Loopy is a parlay piece for me.
Hey, Lou, you got anything fancy on this fight? Any ways to chop down this giant number on Godinez, or are you on the underdog?
No, and it's probably going to get canceled, so I don't want to spend too much time. But Mike said everything.
Put in your DraftKings parlays. Put Loopy in there. I'm sure it won't get canceled.
I agree with everything Mike said. And also, like, I think people are kind of disrespecting the way Angela Hill fought against Godinez. She fought she fought an outstanding fight. She defended 2 takedowns early, and I think that kind of discouraged Loopy. And then, I know it's a different stylistic fight, but Hill's last fight against Dakota, man, Hill has looked. It's an all right loss for me. It's not an all right loss, losing to Nina Nunes the way that Calvillo lost that fight. You know what else isn't an okay loss under any circumstances? Quitting on the stool against Andrea Lee, where you just got absolutely annihilated. Now that won't happen in this fight, just because Loopy's not going to have the volume. She probably has more power than Angela Hill. She's Andrea Lee. Sorry. But losing that Nunes loss was she didn't look like she wanted to be there. It was brutal looking. It was awful. So I think Loopy, if this thing, like Mike said it best, if this thing's just 15 minutes on the feet, I think Loopy wins at an insanely high clip. If there's any grappling, Loopy's going to be the stronger fighter, I would think, with Calvillo dropping down. So I don't really know where Calvillo's advantages are here. So give me Loopy. I think at minus 200, I honestly think we're getting kind of a discount.
Yeah, I mean, my only gripe on Loopy right now, and she's 29, so this could change, but
it's just I'm sorry. I think we're getting a discount.
Yeah, it's just like the fluidity between her striking and then going to the wrestling is just not there. Like a high-level fighter, they can switch, they can change levels pretty quickly. It seemed like once Loopy had early success on Angela Hill in that first part of the fight, she cracked her and actually hurt her with, I think, a counter hook or something. She just went in and was just in full striking mode and they could never get out of that and switch to wrestling. If she could just blend that and make it a little bit more fluid of a transition, I think she could do pretty well in the future. But, we can move on from that one. Pretty wide money line, we can all agree. hard to trust somebody at that number, like the same number that they just burned us on, or at least whoever bet on her last time out. I somehow avoided that one. Like, I just didn't really see a way to bet that fight last time. And both of these fighters on the same timeline, too. They both fought that night. So we can move on to a short notice heavyweight fight here between Chase Sherman, who was supposed to take on Chris Barnett in what was going to be an iconic heavyweight fight down in Miami this weekend. Would have been one for the history books. But instead, Barnett dropped out. We got Carl Williams, who just fought now. Come fight night, it'll be exactly 4 weeks since he last fought in his debut against Lucas Brzezinski. A dominant performance for Carl Williams, who's really a light heavyweight, who's now fought twice in a row at heavyweight. So, I mean, the money line just makes this one a little bit hard to believe, right? We're talking about some books have him minus 500, some books like DraftKings minus 410 for Carl Williams over Chase Sherman, who, like, I get it, but that money line definitely is fading, one of the worst fighters in the roster, which is Chase Sherman, right? More than like, he's not a minus 410 Carl Williams because of his own skill set, in my opinion. Especially at heavyweight, he doesn't really have that finishing potential. And if he's forced to go, 3 full rounds with a guy who at least has UFC experience and is the natural heavyweight who's going to outweigh him by 10, 15 pounds in Chase Sherman, then I start worrying. But I do think Carl Williams should be able to employ a wrestling game plan here. His striking is good enough to stay defensively sound, but I mean, it's Chase Sherman by knockout or Carl Williams, by finish or decision. So more ways to win, more athletic guy. I'll take Carl Williams, but I want nothing to do with that minus 410 price tag or more. So you got any giant? I'm sure there's some giant numbers on Chase Sherman by like round 1 knockout. Lou, do you have any of that action?
Well, time to take the Lou plunge. That's right. The Lou plunge. Let me sell you on a same game parlay for this one. So I don't like the quick turnaround. I don't like the quick turnaround with Williams. I don't like the 3-week turnaround. I didn't like his cardio last fight. I watched your show with Narco last night, and he said one thing that I just want to emphasize. Brzezinski stinks. Like, he's not as good as Chase Sherman, which is horrifying to say. But Williams was so tired, and the 3-week turnaround he's going to be undersized. Can Sherman defend takedowns? Probably not. But the thing is if he's getting tired just from one takedown and then just moving around on the guy and without even really going for the kill, I think Sherman could kind of outlast him here. So I can't do the same game parlay yet because it's not out on DraftKings. But here's what I'm thinking, and I guarantee you get 10-1, because when you do a correlated same game parlay, they screw you. Like, they give you terrible odds. They've been doing that for football, basketball for years. But when you do parlays that involve both sides, especially one that involves somebody's winning condition and then the other side, thank you. That's exactly now the joke has paid off. So how about this for a same game parlay? Chase Sherman money line over 5.5 minutes, because he ain't getting a first round KO. It's Chase Sherman. And 1 first round takedown or more by Carl Williams. I think you're going to get at least 10-1 odds. In no way am I advocating play Chase Sherman at plus 380 or plus 400. I get that it's heavyweight. I get there's variance. But 10-1 against anybody fighting Carl Williams, let's go. Like, Carl Williams isn't that good. Jimmy Lawson is not even allowed at Penn State anymore after that disgraceful, Bo Nickel probably went like Brock Lesnar on him and just you're never allowed to
Dude,
go.
Lou, I want to see Jimmy Lawson versus Chris Barnett. Let's make that happen. Happen.
Jimmy Lawson Barnett would out cardio him easily. Jimmy Lawson.
Mick Maynard, where are you at? Take notes.
Lawson would eat him.
And I had a bet on Jimmy Lawson in the Contender Series. I think you were on the other side of that, Mike, but I had a bet on Lawson.
I cashed Williams.
If you're going to lose a bet, at least I knew I lost the bet in 15 seconds. I'm like, he's done. He's done. No want to get up at all in that fight. So if I'm going to play this fight, and I'm going to probably play this crazy Chase Sherman play if I'm getting at least 10-1. I know Sherman stinks, but again,
I like it.
You give me 10-1, and literally everything I described is the way the fight should play out. Williams is going to get a takedown in the first round. And if Sherman's going to win, it's not going to win by first round knockout. So if he gets out of the first, it's live. And I see Jared said Sherman by round 3 KO. Well, Pat, you and I have some real special memories of a Sherman.
Yeah, we
Somebody
sure
saying
do.
Sherman by round 3 KO, and you've been memeing me since my
I have
face
been.
that I made.
Our guy Eric in the house, he cashed on round 3 Chase Sherman knockout last July over Jared Vandera. He was on that one. He cashed on it, and that's why he retired from YouTube. He's still counting his money.
I can't play Williams at minus 400 with on a short turnaround. I can't do it. So,
no. Mike, what do you got on this one, man? You in the same boat? A little skeptical, but still think Williams wins.
Yeah, I mean, I threw Williams in one parlay with a bunch of overs. One of the overs was an alternate on the Calvillo Godinez. It's minus 700. The other leg, we'll talk about it later. Izzy Pereira over 1.5 minus 400. Parlay came out to minus 127. 1.2 units on it. That's it for the Williams side. I do think he dominates. I think he's going to use that grappling. I don't think the short notice will matter much. That said, I have another prop. It was kind of spoken about before. I did take Chase Sherman by round 3, plus 3,300 for 1/10 of a unit. And look, like the Brzeski fight, right? Everybody said it already. Round 3, guy had his hands on his freaking knees. He was exhausted. Chase Sherman, he's got a gas tank. He's got a gas tank even when he looks exhausted, and he's definitely the better striker here. My other issue with I'm mixing them up at this point. Williams is, we mentioned this before, the new judging, right? Judges right now really don't care about control time if you're not doing damage. He does nothing. Guy does like nothing from on top. It's 38 significant strikes in his last fight against Brzeski, and then even less in the Lawson fight. It was like 20 something. So it's a big problem. Lucky for him, this is like a really favorable matchup. He should be able to fuck up Chase Sherman, but that round 3, I like it. And the one parlay with Williams, I don't feel terrible just because I got minus 390 and not minus 500. But overall, I think you should pass on this fight. If you need to parlay Williams, do it lightly. And Chase Sherman late prop is always fun.
I agree. I like I can see Lou's eyes. I can see rage and cringe filling up whenever you're like, I'm parlaying a minus 700 and a minus, 350. And then it subsides as soon as you're like, then I took a plus 3,500 in the round 3.
Yeah. All right. Like I'm rooting for that one.
Pay-per-views and parlays are that's my weakness and my strength.
Yeah, I'm rooting for plus 3,000 something. I
agree with my guy Zach Johnson. He seems pretty high on Williams. I do like Williams, and I don't think his cardio is that bad either. I think the
60 to 8 is bullshit though.
But Lawson did this the whole just splat. Didn't even try to get up.
Not even Lawson, but like the last fight against Brzeski, like who's not that good. But like the problem what I have with Williams, I'm in between because I think his cardio is not bad, but if he doesn't have the finishing potential, then he's forced as a light heavyweight naturally to be carrying around like a giant 6'4", whether it's Chase Sherman or Brzeski. Like anybody's gonna gas out, even with elite cardio, throwing these people around and not taking them out inside the stretch. So that is gonna come up and be an issue, but I do think his skill set is not that bad. But yeah, we can move on to a very, very fun fight because every time this man fights, people should pay attention when he's the underdog. Once again, Gerald Meerschaert at middleweight taking on Joe Pyfer. Sort of a hype train in Joe Pyfer. Like he's a potent finisher, 10-2 for Joe Pyfer, making his second walk to the UFC cage after having, the famous speech from Dana White given to him in week 1 of last year's Contender Series. Be like Joe Pyfer. I think he was the only one that got a knockout finish and a contract in week 1 of last year's Contender Series. So now he's kind of like this mythical figure at middleweight. Starched Alan Abadovsky in round 1 by knockout, as everybody expected him to do. Everybody bet on him to do that. And as of course, Abadovsky went 0-4 in the UFC after that. So not a whole lot you can take from that, but the guy has got a very well-rounded skill set at only 26 years old and a big frame for middleweight. But Gerald Meerschaert has had more UFC fights than Joe Pyfer. He's had Gerald Meerschaert has as many UFC wins as Joe Pyfer has just pro MMA wins. So we've got the 10-7 Gerald Meerschaert, submission specialist, pretty decent southpaw kickboxer, now training down at Sanford MMA. He's a plus 160 underdog now to Joe Pyfer, who's a minus 190 favorite. Once again, I feel like Gerald Meerschaert's being disrespected here. But the way that you play either of these guys is probably not their money line. You probably want to play either of these guys by finish, whoever you like on this side. So I'm on the Gerald Meerschaert side, taking him inside the distance and taking him by round 2 and round 3 submission I think if you can get this out of round one, things will get very interesting. So which side are you guys on? Start with you, Mike.
I'm on Pyfer. My gut reaction again was to GM3. He's done me good. He's done me bad. I bet what's his face against him? The guy who was beating him, Stoltzfus against him. That sucked. But then after that, the Bruno Silva fight, he cashed for me. It was a round 3 sub, right? That he won with?
Which one, Bruno Silva?
Yeah.
Yep, club and sub, round 3.
So I cashed that, and I cashed GM3 in general for that fight. So he's got a special place in my heart. And going into this fight, I was thinking towards him because Pyfer, he'll grapple too. And another thing with him, he is coming out of good gyms in terms of jiu-jitsu, right? For sure. He's at Renzo Gracie Philly. He's at Martinez BJJ. But you look at the Ozzy Diaz fight, and what happened there? He actually got his back taken by Ozzy Diaz against the fence. Nothing happened because Ozzy doesn't really have a ground game. But if Meerschaert gets you like that, that's his thing. Meerschaert doesn't wrestle well. But how does he always get these subs? He throws the guy against the fence, gets some hooks in, and finishes. Can he do it? Yes. But then after watching the tape, man, I love Pyfer striking so much. Like the way he goes to the body is so clean. He's just such a great striker. And because he's training at these gyms that do have great jiu-jitsu, that do have great grappling, I think he's going to be okay. Can he get subbed? Yes. That's why I have GM3 round 3 sub at plus 1,300. Yes. Plus 1,400 for a 10th of a unit. But I parlayed Pyfer for 2 units total. Mixed him around. I got him with Godinez for a half unit plus 108. I've got him with Burns. So, yeah. I like Pyfer. I think he knocks him out like Mitchell Reyes said. But rather than going with props, I just went with a parlay piece. Total stake, I think, is like 2.2 units on him.
I could certainly see that. What's up to Mitch Reyes in the chat? My guy Anthony W's been in here. And my guy Uncle Wheezy. What's good, fellas? Always good to have you in here, Unk. Happy pay-per-view fight week, my friend. Lou, which side are you on here? Break the tie. I'm on GM3. Got Mike on Pyfer. Both of us inside the distance. Where do you fall?
Well, I like the end of distance part. I'll say that much. Man,
Yeah.
I've done GM3 one way or the other has done well for me. One of my more consistent guys I've had good results with. I had him for the round 3 sub against Silva. But let's talk about that Silva fight for a second, because I don't know what was wrong with Bruno Silva that night. He didn't look the same. He didn't have that explosivity. GM3 was like the better striker, just completely wore him out as that fight went on. Like, you knew the round 3 sub was coming. It was almost like preordained. He didn't need the sub to win the fight, because typically with GM3, he needs it. He's down 2-0.
No, he solely did that to extend the record.
Exactly. Now, this is interesting because this is a fight where I think he could actually, and this is rare for him, I think he could win minutes. I think if Pyfer wants to go to the grapple. Now, Willie, here's the thing, we just don't know. He did it on the Contender Series. I was kind of surprised. By the way, the Pleasure Man, also from that episode of the Contender Series, did not get a contract immediately until he got fed to Almeida. I've struggled with what to do with this one. I really, like, my instinct says that Pyfer knocks him out. That this is like a better version of Jotko, which that was a stylistic nightmare of GM3 too, where he can stay safe if he needs to get a takedown, like here or there, just to secure like minutes, to just, to change it up. Pyfer's definitely good enough to do that. I'm worried that he'll make the same mistake Muradov did. Well, Muradov just was beating GM3's ass, decided to go to the ground, try to finish the job. It wasn't even just the cardio dump. It was GM3 started to recover, like started putting Muradov in bad spots. I don't know that Pyfer, I think Pyfer is a way better grappler than Muradov, but if this thing stays on the feet, hard to see Pyfer not knocking him out. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with, even though like I love GM3. I think Pyfer gets it done, and I think he gets it done within the first 2 rounds of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the way to do it. He's only been to decision one time before. I think only reached round 3, probably once or twice for Joe Pyfer. So yeah, I mean, that's the logic here, in my opinion, as well. Joe Pyfer, early under 1.5 knockout, or Gerald Meerschaert does what he did in the Makhman Muradov fight, what he did against Bruno Silva, what he's done against many opponents, because he does have like 4 round 3 submissions. So Only been finished by, ranked fighters, guys who have at least ascended, even including Ian Heinisch, that have ascended to the top 15 of the division. So a long career for Gerald Meerschaert, who seems to be like kind of in like the third phase of his evolution now at 35. When he was, so I know Gerald personally. He's from my area, and we do have his original coach, former UFC fighter Nick Aguilar, is a good friend of mine. And that was the guy who really brought him from like, 0 professional fights as an amateur all the way up through, the first half of his career. Then he went to Duke Roufus, made it to the UFC, and now he's down at Sanford. So this is kind of like his third part of his evolution. Interesting to see him, try to maybe pass another test here. And he's constantly in the spot where he's trying to shut down hype trains. So he either gets knocked out early, or I think he does put a vet lesson on Joe Pyfer and, finish him late. So that's where I'm leaning with this. I do have just one unit on his inside the distance prop, which was 2 plus 225 for Meerschaert. And then I've got the quarter unit stabs on the round 2, round 3 subs, which are, plus 850, plus 1400 respectively. But yeah, I mean, the parlay piece here maybe is the fight doesn't go to decision. I think if any
minus 500. It's crazy.
Yeah, okay, that's wild. Last I saw it was like minus 350. So that's
climbed, that's DraftKings. So the other books have it different, but DraftKings has a minus 500.
I think of the guy who's more likely to get a decision, I would even imagine, is Joe Pyfer, to be honest. I saw somebody in the chat saying they think that, Anthony's saying he thinks Pyfer will be a more physical grappler. I think so too. I think he'll be a more physical wrestler, more of like that natural power. He's a younger man. I think it'll be up to GM3 to like threaten and try to sweep to get on top position, as this goes on. But yeah, man. Victor's saying that Pyfer broke down the fight beautifully on his podcast. So yeah, he's ready to go, man. He seems like a very fun character in the sport for sure. He was very emotional after that Contender Series win. I like the hype trains, man. We'll see if GM3 can derail another one, but we can move on to another women's strawweight bout here. The third one on the card, Michelle Waterson-Gomez taking on Luana Pinheiro, who we haven't seen in a little bit. But Gomez, I mean, this is another like young versus old matchup here, kind of like the fight we just talked about at middleweight, where, there's probably some wins left in the career of Waterson-Gomez. Pinheiro, still a lot to learn from her. She's been good with the judo throws, the head and arm throws, but lower level competition so far. Waterson-Gomez, not doing so hot, but it's against the upper echelon of the division. So I'm leaning the underdog here, which is Michelle Waterson-Gomez. I'm leaning her slightly. I just think her striking can keep Pinheiro at bay here. She's a very good grappler as well. She's always sprinkled that into her karate-based game plan throughout her career. Pinheiro, we've seen her kind of gas out in spots. So I'll kick it off with Lou and bring up this old, this old question. Do you think Pinheiro was pulling an Aljamain Sterling tier performance with that DQ over Randa Marcos? Do you think her cardio is in question here?
Well, I don't think. I mean, Sterling actually got crushed. Like he got fucking.
You think Pinheiro got crushed as well?
No. And there's replays that show she I mean, look, I'm a soccer fan, so to me, this is I see this every game, which she did. It's all right, she should have gotten a yellow card, and that we could have moved on. But why? The bigger question is, why'd she do it? And she did it because she was already starting to get tired, and that's the important thing here. So, do I think so what's her win condition? She either has to win. So I have an interesting thing I'm going to bet here. She either has to win the first 2 rounds decisively and then kind of hold on, because Waterson's cardio is good. Her cardio has never really been a problem. She used to fight in 5-round fights. It's not going to be an issue. If she doesn't win the second round, Waterson wins. So, if you're going to bet Pinheiro, I don't know how else you play her, except you have to hope that she wins the first 2 rounds and then pray for dear life. I'm going to look to live bet Waterson. I think that's probably the best approach here. If you missed the number, you missed the number. If Waterson wins the first round, okay, you missed the number. But you got to think Waterson's going to be plus 250 after 1. That's the time I would live entry there. I'm going to give you a weird bet that I may have to play here. And don't hate me for this, but I think the draw is crazy live here. I think it's live 2 ways. I think Pinheiro can easily get a 10-8 in the first round, putting Waterson in all sorts of submissions, getting her in trouble, and then gas out and lose the next 2 rounds. Or she could win the first 2 rounds, be totally gassed out, and Waterson, who's not known really for her to have a 10-8 round, she probably has to get a couple of knockdowns and not get a finish, but Waterson's not a big finisher. I mean, if Pinheiro's gassed, it's possible. I'm going to play the draw as a prop here. I'm going to hate that I'm throwing, 5 hard-earned doll hairs away. But I do see a path on both sides for it. Waterson live entry is going to be my play.
I like it, man. Yeah, you're right. I mean, she's not much of a finisher. I mean, I think she only has 2 finishes in the UFC, and it's been years. It was like one of them was over Paige Van Zandt, and one of them was against Magana, who we never really saw or heard from again. So, Mike, what do you got on this? I like that draw play. That now you got my attention with a plus 6,600, Lou. What do you like, Mike?
I played a draw last week for the Sanhagen Vera fight, and I was so happy with myself, but
close, sort of weirdly close.
Could have been. But yeah, for this fight, man, I took Gomez, Waterson-Gomez. It's so weird to say now. I took her plus 140 for a half unit. I think that her style plays into Pinheiro's style, like to Pinheiro's advantage, right? Like if Waterson's going for takedowns, how does Pinheiro get her takedown with her judo background when women try to shove her against a fence and she's like, haha, this is how I throw you. And then she throws them. Waterson's going to probably do that. She's probably going to push her against the fence, go for her takedowns, and she can get thrown. But she's hard to hold down. And on the feet, Pinheiro, I think, is a better striker overall. But it kind of just goes away after a few minutes. Like, she's got good boxing, but it's not anything to write home about. And the more the fight goes on, the worse it gets. Waterson, at least you know what you're getting. She's a known commodity. She'll throw kicks for 5 damn rounds. She'll mix in some strikes, but she's gonna have volume. She's gonna have cardio, and she can wrestle too. So round 1, maybe Pinheiro wins. That's why I think Lou saying the live betting is a good way to do it. I've been trying to live bet too more recently, but I think Waterson-Gomez is gonna win a decision. That's what I think. I think that she could use wrestling, and I think that she could win the fight just standing. I don't love backing karate style people. I don't like kick heavy people, but in this matchup here, I think she not even could. I think she should win. I think it could have been like a pick'em.
Yeah, I think it could have been, man. It's just you expect plus money on somebody who's 1-4 in their last 5 fights, like Michelle Wasterson, as Daz Files is saying. I can kind of assume he's not on her side of this fight, but Victor De Jesus is playing each fighter to win by split, saying it goes to decision, it's close. Kind of goes back to what Lou was saying. I agree with that, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like Michelle Waterson, this is her first step down in competition in some time. So, you know, is Pinheiro going to level up, and are we going to see kind of a regressed version of Waterson-Gomez here? I think it's a close fight. So I wasn't excited to go bet Waterson in this fight, but I do think she wins by decision, like Mike said. So interesting fight, man. Another one of these old versus young matchups where we've got an 8-year age gap in the favor of the younger Luana Pinheiro. But I agree with what you said about her striking too. Like Pinheiro is good in bursts, and that's what didn't she finish the chick on the Contender Series with like a round 1 knockout as well? Just kind of like blitzed her with left and right hooks and got her out of there.
Yeah, but that woman is so bad. Stephanie Frost, though, she's
yeah, that's brutal. What it was. Yep.
Hey, Pat, I'm feeling some age hate over here, by the way, man. You know, you keep bringing up
talk to your guy, Daz Files, man, calling her Wasterson.
He's too far away. He's out of the country, but you're not. Yeah, like, you know what? When you guys are in your 30s and then you're doing shows of people in your 20s, it's like, oh, man, these guys in the 30s are washed up. They're old. Just remember this moment, both of you.
And I still got another year before I'm in my 30s, so I can talk some shit this year.
Look, she might be 1-5 in her 1-4 in her last 5, but like the names, right? Lemos, Rodriguez, Hill, Esparza, JJ, like none of those people are Pinheiro. Pinheiro is none of those people.
You know who else was 1-5 in their last 6 fights? Augusto Sakai. And then he got to step down and well, and there's another guy on this card we're going to get to too, but Augusto Sakai, all he was facing was like pretty good guys in the division.
Yeah.
Finally got to step down in competition. If you're like wiki capping them, you're like, well, Dontel, man, of course I'm an idiot. I bet Mays because I'm so dumb. But I didn't like the knockouts at Sky. But hey, man, he gets a step down in competition. He shows he still has a skill set. So Waterson's getting a step down in competition. Let's see. I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing, but we've seen people, and again, we're going to get to one in a second, that's in kind of a similar situation.
You guys see that picture of Waterson looking absolutely ripped? Is that real?
Jacked.
It's on my ceiling.
She looked jacked. She was ripped up. Good lighting, but really good
there
ripped
right
abs.
now.
Good body. I like Dan Hamilton karate, not so hottie. I agree with you there. I do think Jordan Levitt. I think Jordan Levitt's the better twerker. Does Michelle Waterson twerk? Is that part of her gimmick? I've never seen this before. What is she twerking? She's a 115er. I don't understand.
So is Levitt. Levitt's a 115er too.
Oh man, he's got 40 pounds, 20 in each cheek, man. A lot of junk in the trunk for Jordan Levitt. All right, we can move on to Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum at middleweight. This is kind of what Lou was just alluding to. Where one guy has not been the best, man, like losing going 1-4 of his last 5 for Gastelum, but this is finally a step down in competition. You could argue Chris Curtis, another guy just like Gastelum, who's not the biggest middleweight. In fact, we've actually seen Chris Curtis fight at welterweight in the past. Is this the closest money line on the entire card? I know this one has actually flipped. I saw my guy Cody, Blood Money MMA Bets, actually got Gastelum at like the opposite line with the nice plus in front of that 135. But right now, Chris Curtis is now the plus 110 underdog. So a close fight. One of my least confident picks here. I did bet the split, like the fight goes to split, and I bet either guy buys split in this fight. I think it's that close, man. I think it's the bigger moments from Chris Curtis. I think it's potentially better grappling from Gastelum. He's a very talented wrestler. We don't often get a chance to see him use that. But he's also probably going to outland Chris Curtis in this fight, too, I would imagine. Usually the higher output as the southpaw striker. But I just hate going against Chris Curtis as an underdog, and I just need more. I need some plus money on Gastelum if he's on this big of like a slump recently. So, close fight. Leading Gastelum by decision. I do like the overs as well. What do you guys have?
Am I starting, Pat?
Whoever talks first.
All right, I win. Yeah, for me, we spoke about this, Pat. I have to go with Gastelum. I don't like betting counter strikers with power who I have to wait for them to get the counter. I don't bet on Derek Lewis. I don't bet on Tyson Nam. I don't bet on these kinds of fighters, period. I did bet Chris Curtis against Buckley because I thought it would kind of fall into his kind of game, and it did. I pretty sure I faded him with Hermanson. The Vieira fight, I went with fight goes to decision. Still proud of that one. That was like plus 385. But I've had a decent read with him. But you look at him and the fights that he's won, right? First of all, he was losing pretty much all of them. Phil Hawes was beating his ass. I was there live. He was beating him up on the feet way better. And then Phil Hawes did Phil Hawes things, gets knocked out. Chris Curtis is a beautiful boxer, counter striker. Brendan Allen, same story, knocks him out. Rodolfo Vieira, that was a great performance, but Vieira was just going for takedowns and had nothing else to offer. Gastelum he has a similar style to Hermanson. Hermanson will maybe move more laterally, whereas Gastelum will move more like kind of forwards. And yeah, that could work for Curtis, but it's output. I think it's going to be just the output for Gastelum that's going to win the fight. If he wants to mix in takedowns, go for it. You probably won't get it. Chris Curtis's takedown defense is fantastic. But put out the threat. Why not? Put out the threat. Make him guess. Feint the takedown. Then let it go. We know Gastelum has output. We know Gastelum has cardio. He's got to get knocked out, in my opinion, to lose this fight. And he's got a brick for a head. He does not have a chin like Brendan Allen. Does not have a chin like Phil Hawes. I don't see him getting knocked out. And I think he's going to win. I took him minus 125, 1.25 units. Considered putting more. But I'm kind of just salty people got him as an underdog and I didn't. So I'll stay with this. I get it. Chris Curtis could, like I said, Gastelum will plod forwards, right? So maybe if he's not landing a lot or he's not landing so significantly when he's coming forward, Chris Curtis counters him, looks better, wins the moment. Could happen. Narco was talking about it yesterday on my show. So I get it, but I think that at odds that are close like this, you got to go with Gastelum, in my opinion.
I think you're right. Like a guy who has relied on finishing the fight after losing, up until that finish. And you've got a guy like Gastelum with the toughness. Totally agree with you on this one. Lou, what do you like in this fight, man? How do you like the overs? The over 2.5, right around like that minus 200, minus 225 mark. Does that spark any interest to you?
Pat, how long have I known you? And when has something that's minus 200 ever been something I'm like, yay! Like, I can't wait to bet this.
No, absolutely never. But just like the principle of it.
Oh, it's going to get a decision. But let's make it
Okay, there we go.
Gastelum. Let's make it unanimous in agreement here. I want to add something to what Mike said. So Curtis's takedown defense in the UFC is like statistically great. I understand it. Brendan Allen did not try anything. He didn't try any takedowns against Curtis. Adolfo Vieira was who, by the way, will be facing friend of the MMA Engine and my friend Cody Brundage next month. Very excited for that fight that it got rebooked. By the second round, Vieira was shooting takedowns from like 12 feet away. Like, he was visibly gassed. He was running at him from across the cage going for takedowns. We could have defended these takedowns. Like, I know they go in Curtis's stats, so I want to say it's blown up. Hermanson was using the takedowns just to get distance and pitter patter. You know what Curtis's best win is? Cheerleading on Deliza against Hermanson, like, and being completely classless about it. So if you can't tell, I am not a Chris Curtis fan. The difference between those Gastelum and previous opponents is Gastelum's boxing and the way he closes distance and gets people against a cage is what makes his takedowns effective. And I think Gastelum will have success here. I don't think Curtis has a boxing advantage. I don't think he has a cardio advantage. I'm not certain he has a volume advantage. You're talking about winning the moments. Gastelum absolutely can win moments. It's a guy who won moments against Adesanya. I know it's a few fights ago. I get it. But this is a guy who absolutely can win moments and minutes against Curtis. I do think he could probably get a takedown or two in this fight. So give me Gastelum by decision. And 3 for 3 on the panel. Let's go.
Real quick before we move on, I just pulled it up on DraftKings. Decision only on Gastelum is minus 150, and his money line is what, like minus 130?
Oh, that's not bad at all.
I think I'm going to add to that. I think I'm going to add to that because, like I said, I really don't feel that Curtis is going to win a decision. So
decision only minus 150 for Gastelum if it
on
goes
DraftKings
to the scorecards and he wins. But if he gets knocked out, that's
you get your money back.
There we go. All right, I like that a lot because that seems
That's
like
a
it
real
plays
good
into
look.
where most people agree, and avoid it if Chris Curtis pulls off another underdog spot, which he's known to do, and that's really what's scaring me off that Gastelum side. So
I know you can play around with the same games to get like Gastelum and it's like over 4.5 minutes or something. You get like plus 105. If you want to do a Curtis, you can get like plus 150. So like you can play around. I mean, I don't think this is a first round knockout one way or the other. So I mean, you're probably all right if you just want to be safe and get it to the second round. So you don't need to finish at that point, but just at least you get a little bit more equity. You get some plus odds on it.
Yeah, I got Zach Johnson like in the split play. Yeah, man, I think this is really close, man. Sometimes I've been letting I cashed that one last time at UFC San Antonio with Giles and Parsons, and that was like the closest line fight on the card. So hoping we see some grappling from Gastelum, or at least the attempt to stalemate, because that would kind of lead the judges to scratch their heads a bit more. But I am totally with Aaron, the dog, right here, saying over City come Saturday night. Violence will be switched off for a majority of the evening. That's true. And we've gotten through the majority of the evening. That was the prelim headliner, excuse me. We're moving on to the main card. 32 of you guys in here. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Look in the description and make sure you follow, if you have not already, these two brilliant gentlemen, my co-host, CouchWarrior Podcast, and LouBetya, representing the MMA Engine. And he's got some awesome shows the rest of the week, the props to consider, and then maybe bet the same game parlay show as well. 2 shorter form videos that just give you direct knowledge to make money and have some fun bets. And then also the happy hour with our guy Monk Matician on Friday night.
Number 50.
Number 50.
Hey,
and it's
congrats.
Also, it's tomorrow, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Oh, okay. Well, Thursday. Same time?
Yeah, but I'll talk about that later.
All right. We can move on to the main card featuring the youngest UFC fighter in history. Raul Rosas Jr. signed to the UFC at 17 years old, now an 18-year-old making a second walk to the cage, 7-0 record at 135, taking on Christian Rodriguez, who is making his third walk to the cage. And this will be Christian Rodriguez's first fight in the promotion that's not like a short notice fight. He was the short notice replacement up a weight class against Jonathan Pierce, lost that fight by decision, and then faced a short notice Joshua Weems, won that fight by submission. So Rosas Jr., man, he's getting a lot of respect, just like he was last time against Jay Perrin, which only took him a couple minutes to get that round 1 sub. Or maybe not even, just over 1 minute last time he fought in December in his debut. He was like a minus 230, minus 250 favorite, if memory serves me correct. About the same here. So this is my first money line of the entire card. I am taking Raul Rosas Jr. 2.5 units at minus 220. His striking question marks will be exposed at some point, and I think that if this stays standing, of course, Rodriguez should destroy him on the feet. Very good 25-year-old kickboxer Rodriguez, who's 8-1, not the best strength of schedule in his resume, but really good skills. And even on the ground defensively, he might be able to ward off that submission threat. But I do think Rosas Jr. is something special, throws him to the mat and controls the fight from there. He's very good at being positioned before submission, but he does eventually always find that choke, except for his Contender Series fight, which he won by decision. So I'm into the hype of Rosas Jr. You know, I think, like I said, there's going to be a chance to fade him. I don't think it's Saturday night. I think he does win by submission, but again, there's something to be said about that submission defense of Rodriguez. I'm not quite sure. So I just took the money line. What do you guys think about this fight? Are you fading the 18-year-old here? Mike, we'll start with you.
I am. I did fade the 18-year-old. Look, I took him against Jay Perrin because I knew Jay Perrin is ass and Rosas Jr. is a great grappler. But Christian Rodriguez is not Jay Perrin. Jay Perrin is not Christian Rodriguez. Repeat that to yourselves 10 times back home. You got to remember that. It's not the same fighter. Christian Rodriguez, in my opinion, would absolutely destroy Jay Perrin. To me, Rosas Jr. is like a better attempt at what Chase Hooper was supposed to be. Chase Hooper was like 19, I think, or 20. I think 19 when he got brought in. And same kind of hype, same kind of thing. I think that Rosas Jr. is way better than he was back then, but you got the similar issues. The striking, we don't see much of it, but when we do, it looks very green and not very good. He's hittable. He can be reversed himself. He's got great grappling, but he's still young and kind of stupid. And Christian Rodriguez, yeah, he got taken down by Weems. I know a lot of people are hanging their hats on that. He didn't get held down long, got up, and the second time he subbed him on it. So he got taken down twice by Cortez on the Contender Series, 2-time state champ in Arizona, a legitimate wrestling state. He defended, I don't remember the amount, but he defended more than Cortez landed. I think that is Rosas Jr. live for a sub. Yeah, he's a prodigy. I'm very hyped to see him develop. But I think that it's very likely that Rodriguez survives. And on the feet, it's not going to look close, I don't think. So I took C-Rod at plus 205 for a half unit like 2 weeks ago. Now you can even get a better price. And at this point, I would just sit and wait because fight night's going to come. Everybody's going to text their boys. Who do I parlay? Everyone's going to parlay Raul Rosas Jr. Maybe you get plus 250 or better. I already have it. Aaron the dog, fair point that Cortez's brother isn't good, but I was more so focusing on like his wrestling, you know. A good point you can make, I guess, is Cortez doesn't set up the wrestling well with his striking. He's not a great striker, but regardless, different fight. I just think C-Rod is a good underdog here. I definitely think so. Like I said, Junior, I'm super hyped for him. I think he's going to be here for a long time and maybe even fight for a title. But right now, this is a really stiff test. And at these odds, I like Rodriguez.
Yeah, I got nothing against fading an 18-year-old at some point if you see an edge there, especially at that number. Not bad. Lou, first off, Justin's asking where you can get baseball bets and props from you.
It's like the only sport I don't bet. Like, dude, I literally post like
that's probably why he's asking. He's like, I've seen everything except for baseball.
Dude, I post like soccer, football, like midget ping pong. Like if like Patsies, like all sorts of random. Dude, I sent Mike these like random. I'm like, oh, look at this like basketball prop and Bellator nonsense I bet. And he's like,
I don't understand a word of what it is.
I mean, like I put these weird things in. So like, so anyway, I also like C-Rod. I think part of it is I just don't like Rosas. I should note I have scrubbed all. Jay Perrin was never on the MMA engine. It was removed. It's been removed from the channel once he lost. We had to get rid of it. We can't have that association with the channel.
I like it.
Well, he was a little, out of hand with some of the things he was saying. I mean, it's still still a fellow competitor, like doesn't know him. He was kind of ruthless, but I think C-Rod's another live bet spot, man. I mean, if C-Rod wins, he's probably not winning by first round knockout. He's probably not winning by first round submission. I love his cardio. I love what I've seen from C-Rod. The Pierce fight, like I like what I see from his cardio. Rosas' fight on the Contender Series, he was tired in the third round. Now he fought through it against a guy with no takedown defense. He fought through it. They had some really interesting sequences on the ground. He fought through being tired. But the fact of the matter is, you do not want to be tired against C-Rod. Also, fun fact, even though he doesn't have a long illustrious career, Rodriguez has never been finished. His one loss is to Pierce, and he easily could be undefeated if Pierce hadn't survived that show. Yeah. So I like what I see from C-Rod. Yeah, he gets taken down easily, but he's got the energy to play around on the ground. I think live after round one, he's going to be, I mean, he might be an insane number after one. He might be plus 550. He might be plus 700 because people are going to just assume that Rosas is going to die. I mean, I'm telling you, you might get a crazy, even if it's just for like 30 seconds, you might get an insane number on him live. I would take it. I think he can win the second. I think if this thing hits the third round, C-Rod, I mean, you know, I told you, I don't like betting finishes against people that are undefeated on the regionals, but C-Rod could pour it on him here. And like his cardio is going to look like just started the fight. So love C-Rod. Another great live entry spot for me here too.
I like that that idea there. That could be a way to bail yourself out. Say you're like myself or maybe even Aaron the dog. I'm not sure how confident he is on Rosas Jr., but he's saying he gets exposed, but not here. I kind of agree with that. Moving on to like a different topic here, but Zach Johnson's asking, how much do you guys take reach and other minor intangibles into consideration? I take it in if all things are equal. Maybe you have, and then the way that I look at fights a lot of times, if I'm looking at a matchup, I try to go back in their history of their resume and look for guys with a similar physique as the person that they're about to take on. So that's when I take those things into consideration. But otherwise, not so much if it's not relevant. But if all things are close, if it's a close, like it's a Kevin Gastelum versus a Chris Curtis, then I start really diving into, you know, how close these things are. Or if it's a high level fight, like in the main event, you know, two kickboxers, then I'll take those things more into consideration. How about you guys? Would you consider reach and like minor height differences, minor age differences? You know, is it kind of like what I said where it's close?
To me, reach isn't a minor intangible. To me, it's like a major tangible thing that you can look at. And there's matchups where it doesn't matter, right? If you've got a really good wrestler against a striker with no takedown defense, it doesn't matter how long your arms are and how well you can strike at reach if you're getting taken down. But if it's a striker or a striker versus a well-rounded guy, I think reach is very important, especially if the person can use it. Good jab, good follow-up, good 1-2. I think it's very important. It's definitely a major thing to me, at least. I do take it into account.
I want to add a point to it because this is very important about reach, about how you use it. Reach doesn't mean anything if you're a dude who throws looping punches. Like if you throw straight jabs, like, I mean, look, the shortest distance to 2, you know, straight line, shortest distance to 2 points. If you're a guy, you have huge reach, but all you do is throw hooks. A guy with a 6-7 inch reach, less like disadvantage, is still going to be able to land on you constantly. So it's not going to matter. So those are the things that matter. Like it's, you know, look, everything fits the puzzle that we're trying to do here. Like reach is nice, you know, like takedown defense. Okay. Like, you know, 100% takedown defense, but you face 3 takedowns. Like we're going to get to the Yanez fight in a second. Like 100% takedown defense is impressive in one way and it's not in another. Like Alexander Volkov's takedown defense is terribly statistically. You got to look beyond the numbers and realize that Blades took him down 73 times. So they matter, but like you got to look a little past just the raw numbers and figure out like how it all fits. At least that's the way I look at it.
Totally agree. And one more thing for Lou that's off topic, but were you profitable on WrestleMania? The guy
I bet Roman Reigns. Of course I was profitable.
Nice.
Plus 450 odds for the guy who's never lost in like 3 years against Cody Neck Tattoo Rhodes. Come on.
This is coming from a guy in LouBetya who managed to bet against The Undertaker at the first WrestleMania he lost at.
I got banned from Bovada for betting on Bork Laser.
Very good, very good.
You give me Brock Lesnar to like plus 2,000 odds? Take Brock Lesnar plus 2,000.
I have a friend who I text for like WWE bets. I remember once there was something for like the Royal Rumble or whatever. And I know he watches this stuff religiously. Like, it's his thing. So I texted him, and immediately he just hit me back with this whole thing, and he cashed me a bunch of money.
Yeah, Bovada won't like they're like, here's the money you won from betting fake wrestling. You must have had insider knowledge with your $20 bet. You're banned. Like,
Right.
okay,
But it was like $20 to win like over $1,000, right?
it was insane. I was like, it's Brock Lesnar. They're like, well, it's the Undertaker. It's like, well, but also it's Brock Lesnar, and like, it's Bork. It's Bork, man. It's our Viking space lord Brock Lesnar. Of course, I'm betting him.
Houdini Beats, good to see you in here. He's on Rosa, as is I think my guy Dan Hamilton as well. So is Aaron the Dog. But we got Daz Files on the plus 1100 for C-Rod sub.
It's a crazy number, too. Like, it really is like a wild number for what's probably his win condition. His prime win condition.
I was thinking
good
fight
to
ends
see you
in
in here, my friend. How you doing? 2 cents.
Isn't it like
What's
plus
up, Mike?
110? It's like plus 110 or plus
130. It's not
crappy.
good enough, Blue. It's not good enough.
Bork Laser, then, now, and forever. Absolutely. But we can move along to one of my least favorite fighters on the entire roster, because I got burned betting him last time he fought at UFC Orlando. Kevin Holland taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio at welterweight here. Surprised Kevin Holland is showing his face in the state of Florida. I'm surprised they're letting him back in Florida after that embarrassing display, getting stopped in between rounds 4 and 5 against 50-year-old Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who had a very good performance. But Kevin Holland, man, he was just, I don't get frustrated with many things in life. I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm pretty calm and collected. Not really much rattles me, or it takes a lot to get me angry. But man, I was actually pretty pissed when Kevin Holland finally got the takedown, finally established top position, and just stood right back up. I was just like, my blood was boiling. I almost turned off the TV and just stopped watching the fight. But we continue. Lessons learned. Not really.
Do you ever leave the room,
Holland.
Pat?
What's up?
Do you ever leave the room?
No, never. I'll force myself to suffer through. I'm kind of a masochist that way. Even if things are going poorly, even if I'm losing everything, all of my savings, I'll stay and watch it.
Bro, if I'm stressed, I'll dip the fuck out of the room and I'll come back in like 5 minutes.
No, but yeah, so that was embarrassing. But Kevin Holland,
I'll hit Pat with a tire iron.
That would be nice. Yeah, I really would have liked that treatment if I was watching that fight and you just knocked me out and I just, I didn't have to suffer through it. But in this fight, man, Ponzinibbio slowing down a little bit, in my opinion. Kevin Holland has all of the tools to win. This is where I think, like a guy's reach really does matter. Kevin Holland doesn't always use it the best, but when he does throw a nice straight punch, his physique in this weight class is just, it's undeniable. 6'3", 81-inch reach at 170. Pretty crazy. The guy's still young. Good grappling on the ground when it gets there. Not good anti-wrestling, but Ponzinibbio really doesn't use that tool as reliably as you would like until it's too late. So give me Kevin Holland. I think he could finish this inside the distance. Maybe a round 2 TKO I could see happening. Decision maybe, but no way I'm going to trust my money with Kevin Holland. Just personally, I just can't do it after getting burned. So you never know when this guy's fight IQ is going to just go out the window and he just checks out mentally. So how do you guys see this fight, and what do you think about the money line for this fight? Mike?
So gut feeling when I saw the line was I'm going with Ponzi, and then taped it a bunch, and I ended up even parlaying Holland a little bit for 2 units total stake. If Ponzi wrestles, he can win this thing. Holland to date still doesn't have good takedown defense. I see what you're saying, Dan Hamilton, that they agreed not to wrestle, but that's part of the bad fight IQ. Why the fuck would you agree to that, you dumb idiot?
Yeah, good fight IQ would be agreeing to this and then wrestling.
And then why would you stick to it, you dummy? I was also pissed, Pat. But anyways, for this fight, once I was taping it, Ponzi, he's if you watch the Jeff Neal fight, you almost want to auto bet him because he did so well there and he looked so good in the striking exchanges. But Pat, you hit it. The reach. The reach is going to be a big difference. There's a huge difference in stature between Kevin Holland and Jeff Neal. And I think that Kevin Holland will be able to use it. I think he's going to land a lot of really damaging shots. Look at the Miguel Beza fight, right? For Ponzi. Beza landed a lot. It was a close fight. And the guy is much greener than Holland. Similar fighting style, similar reach situation. Not as long and not as good as Holland. So I think that Kevin Holland wins, probably ITD, but I just parlayed him rather than going too crazy. Stuck to the 2 units. I know the whole broken hand thing people are talking about. I'm not too worried. He accepted the fight. I think he's going to be fine. So we'll see, but I'm on Holland.
I think this was broken at the last fight.
Last fight. Yeah.
Partially why that fight ended so badly for Holland is because he really couldn't use that hand. He was just on the defense. Yeah, so, and I think there was some, does he do like I know every fighter does like a freaking podcast now, or at least appears on him. So didn't he do one? And I think his hand was like taped up or something like that, or something rather recently is why people are rumored that it's still an issue.
Yeah, well, then he went and solved like 7 crimes.
Yeah.
Like he stopped the burglary. He like pulled somebody out of a burning car. He like landed a plane. Like this is what he does, man. Like
yeah.
He's the hero. He's the hero we need, not the hero we deserve.
He's the hero Miami needs. But Lou, do you have anything on this fight?
No, I'm not betting this fight.
Why not?
I want to because, well, first of all, I want to bring up what Dan said, because I talked about this earlier today. I don't have it like insider knowledge that he agreed to not do takedowns, but I have alluded to this. I even alluded to it on the breakdown for that fight day. They were palling around all week doing each other's podcasts. I think they probably had an unspoken agreement, because if you go back and watch that fight, his corner's screaming at him, go for, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, he just doesn't listen to his corner. He's going to do whatever he wants to do. You guys are calling it bad fight IQ. I think he's just, like, I can relate to this. I think he's just a strange bird, man. I think he just kind of wants to do whatever he wants to do, and he'll ask for forgiveness and not permission. Holland at his, like, in his flow state, as my friend Mike's MMA picks would say, you know, with no ballyhoo and just in his flow state. The guy's super talented. He's shown, look, I know Means is a little washed. Like, I get it. I know, like, Alex Oliveira is a little washed. But when he shows that he can mix in the takedowns, like, I don't think he makes terrible entries. Like, he actually looks like he's an improving fighter. Like, he's taking it seriously. For every moment like that, there's a moment where he's like, you're like, why did I bet on this guy? So I'm just tired of getting burned by him. I'm not betting Ponzi. I'm rooting for Holland. Like, I like him. Like, I want to like Holland. And I think Ponzi looked so bad in that Morono fight. Like, I know Morono is like a lot better than like his doughy frame would suggest, but he took that fight on like 2 days, 3 days, and he was going to win that fight if not for like just Ponzi catching him. I mean, that was a one-sided fight until the finish. Right. So look, it happened. Like, good for Ponzi. Like, dug deep and he got him out of there. But I don't know, man. Holland's pretty tough typically, but yeah,
I'd love to see this guy in Slap League, Aaron. I'd love to see him getting the smack talk slapped right out of his stupid mouth.
I mean, like, Holland Batman is above Will Arnett Batman for me. Like Lego Batman. He's above Lego Batman in the pantheon of Batmans. But I'm rooting for Holland. I think he wins. I actually think he probably wins a decision. Just screwing around, going for takedowns and doing nothing with them. And Ponzi kind of staying out of trouble, but I don't know. I'm rooting for Holland. No bet. I can't get to Holland at this number. So,
yeah, I'm with you. No bet. I think this could end up in a finish. I'm equally split between like a inside the distance knockout for Holland with your decision, because I could see Kevin Holland playing the outside game and just sniping Ponzi as he pressures forward with the boxing. And, you know, I think it's going to be like a long rear cross from Holland that sets up something from, you know, for the finish. But otherwise, it'll just be those big moments. If Ponzi's not totally washed, he's durable, then, you know, maybe he does see the scorecards and lose that way.
And what's going on with the Masvidal thing too? Like, it's stupid.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he's arguing with Masvidal. So neither me or Lou have anything on this fight. But Mike, you said you have Holland parlayed up. All right. Well, hopefully, so I can be rooting for you on that one. But yeah, man,
absolutely.
I'm torn though. I'm torn between rooting for my boy Mike to cash out and seeing Holland unconscious on the canvas, which I'd love to see as a fan. But I'll root for your bet there. But
next fight, root against him.
Yeah, we can move on to a very fun fight at bantamweight now. Rob Font taking on Adrian Yanez, another one of these spots where you've got a young up-and-coming Adrian Yanez who's Got the age advantage here, the youth advantage on a 5-win streak in the UFC. A couple have been close, but he has dug deep and gotten 4 finishes out of those 5 wins. And you've got Rob Font, who's coming off of back-to-back losses, but against super high-level competition. So sort of a same dynamic as we've seen in a few fights so far. And as such, Adrian Yanez is the favorite. Rob Font about a plus 150, 160 underdog, I want to say at this point. So let me see what it is now. We're seeing plus 155 for Rob Font. Adrian Yanez minus 180. Money line bet for me on Rob Font. I did put 1.5 units on him at plus 160. I'm just going to hope that he's durable enough to not get put out by Yanez. Do what Rob Font has been doing against higher level competition, outpointing Yanez, and just scoring more by the minute. Yanez, usually relying on the finishing potential. If somebody finishes the fight, I think it is Yanez in this spot. But it's been lower level competition. Rob Font has been in 5-round fights, so this is not only a step down in competition for him technically, but his first 3-round fight in a while. So I think that is a big factor in this one. He could do just enough to win. We've seen Yanez fade in a couple spots in round 2 and have to reel back the fight into his favor. So Rob Font, boxing-wise, they're both very technically sound in their striking, but Rob Font is far less hittable, especially at the high level. So obviously you wouldn't tell that by looking at his face at the end of the Chito Vera fight, but again, over 5 rounds against the high-level guys. So taking the stab on Rob Font, I think the money line should just be closer. Lou, you got some Yanez love for me here?
No, I do not, sir. I'm going to take the plunge, the underdog plunge, part 2.
Let's go.
I'm gonna play around with some same game props here too on like significant strikes and overs. But I mean, what's the story in this fight? Is that Yanez needs a finish? Like, does he have in a 3-round fight a guy who typically starts pretty slow? Look, I realize that Yanez could like completely make improvements. He's young. Like, I understand it. The Tony Kelly fight, which like, let's just call that like frontier justice. Like, let's take that one out of the capping. That was like standing up for racism. Like, dude, I'm saying like he came out like I am standing up for like literally the world right now. And
didn't like a high level guy, was it Burns or was it somebody else that like offered him like they put like a bounty on Tony Kelly's
it was getting like pretty ugly with like some of the wordsiness that was happening. But Font, look, he's getting dropped every fight, and that's really kind of the concern here. But I think he's going to be able to just have tons of volume, especially early, going to be landing his jab. I think he can mix takedowns in. Yanez has never been taken down in the UFC. He's faced, I believe, 5 takedowns. But, like, I would compare this fight almost, like, the most similar fight that he's had would be the Davey Grant fight, where Davey Grant, like, so weirdly unorthodox, but tons of volume. The takedown is there, whether or not Grant goes for it or not. And that was a dicey fight. And I think Font, the year off from the Vera fight, is certainly going to help him. Like, everybody assumes he's washed, like, because he took 2 beatings. I understand that. Like, I understand why people are saying that, but I think Font can just completely out volume here. He's a great minute winner. If he doesn't get bonked in the first 2 rounds and just hangs on in the third, should be a pretty clear 29-28 for him. So I am playing Font here. I think Font wins by decision. You think he can win round at the ends of the hard counter? I mean, he could, but I also think that Font can take him down. And I also think that Font can completely outland him. So I like the price on Font here. I like it. I think it's a crazy price for me for a guy who historically, this is a step down for Rob Font competition-wise. So, yeah, making the play on Font.
Yeah, I agree with Juan's comment here. This is what I'm worried about. He can win rounds at the end with hard counters. That's what we've been seeing has been losing fights for Rob Font, in these big spots, right? He outlands Aldo, he outlands Marlon Vera, but at the end, especially the Aldo fight, like he was winning every moment of the fight, 4 rounds or 4 minutes of a round, he'd win, then he gets dropped at the end or something goes wrong for him optically. So, then you can just chalk it up as like an Aldo round, and he ended up winning that way. So, yeah, what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, but by the way, I mean, also listen, it's a 3-round fight. Like Font's again going back to a 3-round fight. Like,
I think that's big. I think that's big here.
I think it's huge. That and the layoff are huge for him right here.
Mike, are you just as excited for the underdog as we are?
Yeah, I'll round us out. I'm on Font also. I played him at plus 145 like 2 weeks ago. Better line now. It really comes down to me like the output. I just think Font's gonna have the better output. He's gonna land better. I think he's a better guy. Yanez, he's great. I love him, but who's he really beating here? He beat Tony Kelly, gone from the UFC. Davey Grant just barely beat a Sunset with the craziest thing I've seen in a while. Randy Costa, pretty sure he's gone. Gustavo Lopez, pretty sure he's gone. Victor Rodriguez, pretty sure he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
So none of those people are even close to Rob Font's level. And who's Font? Like, people keep talking about this damage. Oh, he's showing all this damage now. Bro, because you watched him fight Vera in his last one, and that's all you have in your head because Vera landed all these crazy strikes and beat the hell out of him. Yes, Aldo also hurt him, but before then, when were you saying this? Nobody was saying these things. 2 fights against 2 hard hitters. Like, yes, Yanez hits hard also, but I just don't think it's the same thing. So I like Font. I think it's a decision also for him. I think it's just going to come down to output. Look at the Davey Grant fight. That was a close fight. And Davey Grant isn't a technical striker. He's a moment winner with the big strikes also. So I think Font takes the decision personally.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I wonder what that prop is. Font by decision. Is that worth taking a stab on, or would you just take the? I mean, I thought the
Like
money line was good enough.
25 or something.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the money line was good enough to bet. Again, with a big step down in competition, technically speaking. You know, I don't know how Yanez is going to respond to that. I think I'm not going to get greedy with the plus 160 on a guy who I think the money line should be a lot better. So just took the stab on that. Any thoughts on the unders in this spot? I'm seeing Daz File saying the under 2.5 is around a plus 100. For either of you guys, any thoughts on that?
Nah, if you like it, take Yanez KO. If you really like the under it, I think you just take the Yanez side. You take them.
I parlayed the alternate total there. Over 1.5 is minus 250. I think it's a good parlay leg.
Okay.
I like that too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Even if Yanez gets him out of there, I don't think it's not the first 5 minutes.
Yes. And Cody saying the dog is the star of the show right over the
clearly.
The dog is not barking, and he hasn't barked once. Who is it?
Is a very calm dog.
Is it Wheezy's dog? I always see Uncle Wheezy's dog is always barking nonstop. Like,
yeah, or his cat. Or his cat goes off.
Well, his cat sounds like I don't know what his cat sounds like. It doesn't sound like a cat, but his dog always barks. Yeah, Bootsy always barks at like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bootsy.
Bootsy's like plus 23 in his track this year, so it's crazy.
We can move on to the co-main event of UFC 287 welterweight match between Gilbert Burns and George Masvidal, and the money line is very wide here. We're looking at minus 450 for Gilbert Burns, former title challenger, taking on George Masvidal, plus 360, the underdog, former title challenger. The money line and the matchup, it makes me think this fight won't be very competitive. I'm on the Burns side, but what makes it fun is just the fact that it's George Masvidal's hometown of Miami, Florida. They've returned to the fact that now both guys were knocked out by Kamaru Usman, and now there's a whole different champion that would probably be a much easier matchup potentially for both guys. And you've got the built-in history with George Masvidal and Leon Edwards. Masvidal, of course, having beef with like everybody on the roster at this point. So like the narrative makes it fun. Is there some added motivation? Will that change, the result on Saturday night for the 38-year-old George Masvidal, who's got so many fight miles on him between backyard bare knuckle fights, to just fighting under every promotion worldwide under the sun since the early 2000s. Just a lot of miles on George Masvidal here, who stylistically has always suffered against grapplers, and a really talented wrestler, Gilbert Burns, even more talented and skilled BJJ submission fighter. But we've seen his durability cracked a couple times. Dan Hooker down at a featherweight fighter, but that was at lightweight. And of course, Kamaru Usman. So, is there a chance that Masvidal finishes inside the distance? Yeah, I think that's even his path. And if this stays striking for any consistent period of time here, and for some reason Burns can't get those takedowns, I think Masvidal is a much better striker. He's got very polished striking, good boxing, and good counters. But we've seen him a lot of split decision results for, when he lands the better strikes, then it gets stalemated against the cage or taken down and out wrestled. Even Damian Maia comes to mind as somebody who's done that to him. And then Colby Covington last year in his last fight. So riding a 3-fight winning streak to change his career for George Masvidal, now a 3-fight losing streak. I think Gilbert Burns is justified as the favorite, but the money line is very, very wide. I did parlay Gilbert Burns with Actually, Chris Gutierrez next week, who I think is, actually very live to win that fight. So I got combined parlay odds at -123, 2 units on Gilbert Burns, and this half of that parlay. It's about all I've done with this fight. But what do you guys see here? Are we going to see a 4-second flying knee from George Masvidal, Lou?
Yeah, I'm not going to pull out the prop now. I realize it won't make sense. I had a sombrero I was going to put on. I should have done it for the Godinez fight, and I think I missed the window. Am I allowed to curse on the channel, Pat?
Absolutely.
I think Burns is going to fuck him up, and it's going to be bad. And I believe Mike and I actually have the exact same play here. I'm the one that didn't give him shit on Twitter. I have In the Distance. The KO is very live. Like, the sub's very live. Like, ground and pound is live. Like, Masvidal's got 1 foot out the door. Let's say Masvidal didn't have a foot out the door and we don't have the retirement angle. This price is still accurate. Burns is just going to run through him. Like, where is Masvidal better? Is he really that, like, much of a better striker? Or does he have meme moments that we savor and assume that, like, he's just this technical wizard on the feet? Like, I don't think he is. Like, I think Burns is.
I think he's a much better striker. His boxing is crisp.
You think he's much better than? I don't think he's much better than.
I think
Burns.
he's much better. I think he's
no,
much better.
I don't think so. I think Burns. I think you're underrating Burns a little bit, but
okay.
But on the ground, it's not even competitive, and we can't argue there. But I think Burns is like the one thing that like really gets me off any kind of Masvidal dog shot. Yeah, I think he's going to run through him too. It's not a matter of like, if we want to talk about like Colby Covington just holding Masvidal down the way Colby likes to grind out fights, that's fine. Masvidal lost the will to even try getting up in that fight the last 3 rounds. He wasn't scrambling. He wasn't exerting tons of energy. He was just content to be on the ground and be like, okay, and like talk shit and not trying to train with killers. Yeah, okay, well, he attacks people and like randomly in the street too. Like
allegedly.
I mean, you get to a point like you see guys that are just constantly taken down. They lose the will to get up and they just accept position. Yeah. Burns is not a guy who just accepts having your back or being in control. Like, he's always advancing position. He's always hunting for something. If Masvidal loses that will to get up, Burns is going to mow him down. So I think Burns round 2, round 3 finish. I love him in the distance here. Masvidal's cooked. He's done.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. Mike, what do you have in this fight?
Yeah, I got a ton of shit because I played 1 unit on Burns ITD plus 110 or 115, and I played his sub like plus 230 for a unit. Sorry, my neighbor's like banging against the wall. I don't know what their deal is, but
they're betting on Masvidal.
They might be, or they're hammering something. I can't tell what they're doing, but
they're fornicating. Yeah. They're fornicating upstairs.
It's not what it sounds like, but it could be.
Very slowly and romantically, it sounds like.
Just replying to anyone who believes Burns is going to run through Masvidal is insane. I mean, call me insane, call me genius, call me handsome, doesn't matter.
Don't call him late for dinner.
I think he's going to run through him. I mean, do I think he's going to get a round 1 finish? No, that's not what I'm saying. I think he's just going to body him. He is going to grapple. I understand Masvidal's been subbed like 1 time in like 50 fights. Yeah. Damian Maia couldn't sub him. Damian Maia and Gilbert Burns are very different in the jiu-jitsu departments. Gilbert Burns comes from a no-gi background. That's what applies to MMA a lot better. And look at his last fight with Magny. How many people thought a sub was going to happen? Very few. Everyone had the overs. And what happened? He pulled up with that sub. And he was like, my wife said, don't strike. Don't be stupid. Use your jiu-jitsu. And that's what he did. And I think he's going to continue to do that. There's no reason for him to sit here and strike where he can lose when he knows he'll get a title shot after this or after 1 more after this. Gilbert Burns is hungry. We all know this. Masvidal, I think he's just looking for more bread. So I like Burns. I like Burns by sub. I like Burns ITD, and I've got him parlayed. So let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I have got money on Gilbert Burns. Like I said, I got that 2 unit parlay staked on him, but I'm in between. There's a lot of people in the comments that are saying that, yeah, you guys are crazy to say he's going to run through him. I'm somewhere in between you guys. I think it's going to be a dominant performance from Burns, but I do think that this money line is wide. I think there's a lot more of a chance George can land something, or if this does stay striking at any time, I do think that Masvidal is still a step above. Is he going to regress that 38? Is he going to get worse? Probably. Is he going to get better? Probably not. But I think
Pat, let me ask you,
striker.
Pat and Mike, let me just ask something, because if you go even past Covington and Usman, he beat Nate Diaz. Diaz is cooked.
Yeah.
Okay, he beat Askren, flash KO. Askren's not a striker. He beat Darren Till, who has Till won since. I mean, Till really not had a good UFC career. He lost to Stephen Thompson. He lost to Maya in a really weird fight. So I think with Masvidal, if you look at his history and when you go through his tape, he's winning the fights he should win. He's losing the fights he should lose. And this has nothing to do with his age. This is just his skill level. It's just what he's all about. This is a fight, even in his prime, he would lose. So I don't know why, don't let the price fool you. He would have lost this fight in his prime. He's definitely losing it now with 1 foot out the door and aging.
No, I agree with you for sure. Yeah, the money line is wide. You know what I mean? There is a chance that at any point this stays standing. I think he's got a good shot to win, but I just don't think it's going to stay standing for very long. He's going to be on the defense. And George is kind of like Darren Till in a way where he does use the counters to sort of get his momentum into the fight. He can fall off in the later parts of a fight. So just all things around stylistically, I think it's a bad matchup for him, especially with all the things he's got going on outside the cage right now too. Just coming off of promoting his own promotion, up here in the Midwest last week. He's got court cases, allegedly he's been, just going wild last year in the streets. So yeah, I think he's kind of 1 foot out the door, but should be a good show. I'm sure the crowd, I don't even know how the crowd's going to respond. They're going to be all Masvidal love, you think? Or is it going to be some boos? I feel like he lost some fans by allegedly attacking Colby. No?
Burns is a really likable, people love this dude because he's got a positive attitude. Everything you hear about Burns is one of the friendliest guys in the UFC. So no, I don't think it'll be totally one-sided.
Hey, shout out to InfoWars stopping by. Thanks, Alex Jones. Good to see you here. And we can move to the main event of the night. We've got 31 of you in here right now watching us. Thank you all for stopping out and watching this week's edition of the panel, co-hosted by myself and CouchWarrior podcast with our guy LouBetya from the MMA Engine. And we move on to the middleweight championship bout of the night. Alex Pereira defending his belt against the man he took it from last November, Israel Adesanya. This is their second fight in the UFC in mixed martial arts. This is their fourth fight between kickboxing and MMA, where Alex Pereira has gone 3-0 combined between the two sports. So this is a spot where one of my lesser confident picks of the night, one of my lesser technical breakdowns of the card as well. Going back and rewatching the fight in November, I remember, Israel was up 3-1, pretty decisively, but in my mind it was a lot more dominant than when I went back and rewatched it very slowly, very carefully. That was a very close fight, and Alex Pereira was the bully the entire time. And that knockout sequence that happened in round 5 could have happened in round 2, 3, or 4. It was just an inch away from happening to Israel Adesanya, who never really wanted to engage with him. He was moving laterally, evading, and then wanted to clinch up if things got too close, too dangerous. Pereira is a huge, physically imposing middleweight. So I really do think Alex Pereira deserves to be at least a pick'em, if not the favorite in this spot. I'm not confident enough to bet him in this fight. I think Israel Adesanya could develop a game plan, and maybe he's going to have to be on point for all 25 minutes in this fight to win this one. So I think it does go the overs, and that's the route that I've taken betting-wise. The over 2.5, the over 3.5, and the over 4.5. I've cascaded with the most being on the over 2.5 at minus 225, the over 3.5 at minus 145, and the over 4.5 at plus 100. So that's how I've played this fight. I think it's close. I think it could potentially be a split decision too, but I think Adesanya once again falls victim to his rival, and Pereira gets his hand raised and still. Do you guys think this finishes inside the distance? Do you think it's close? Who do you think wins this fight? LouBetya.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say what I want to say now that Adesanya is in the chat. I don't know if I want to break this.
Come on, focus up, Style Bender. What are you doing, man? You should be working on your weight cut.
So let me just do the devil's advocate thing real quick. So, in soccer, we use the term bogey team. You got a team that just can't beat another team no matter what the rosters are. It's a mental thing. So that's in play. I mean, look, man, Pereira is 0-3 against this guy. So if you want to say, you know, if you like the Adesanya side, it's like, I don't know how you're justifying it. The only thing you can say is he won every minute of that fight. He did until he lost it. So here's my question. If this thing goes a distance, which I tend to think it will, can Pereira outpoint Adesanya for 3 rounds? Can he throw more volume? Could he defend a takedown? Could he mix in another takedown of his own like he did last fight? I don't know. I think Pereira, if you like him, trying to finish here, man. Adesanya, if he wanted to, could probably go take a grapple heavy approach here. I just don't think he will. I think they say pride cometh before the fall. I think he'll just stand for 25 minutes. And I think if he stands 25 minutes with Potan, he's going to get rocked again, man. So late rounds again. Pereira 4-0 against Adesanya, and then bring on Bo fucking Nickel.
Let's go. I like it. Ending with the Bo Nickel promo.
You knew I was going to sneak Bo Nickel in there, man. Hey, man, I told people last year Bo Nickel was going to defeat Khamzat for the title in 2024. Khamzat?
No, he won't.
Oh, yes, he will.
No, he won't.
Oh, are we going to bet hair? Are we doing the hair bet?
I have more hair than you. That's not a fair bet.
Bro, this is the last hair I'm ever going to have. You're taking my scalp. Yours will grow back in I don't know how hair works.
How about 3 shoeies?
I'm going to win then because your record at shoeies stinks.
So do it.
I'll do 3 shoeies.
All right, bet. So if Khamzat and him fight at any point, loser does 3 shoeies.
I mean, I'll even give you better than that. I'll say specifically next year, Bo Nickel defeats him for the title. If that exact scenario doesn't happen, I'll get you 3 shoeies.
It's not going to beat him.
Okay.
Man, so I like that. LouBetya's got and he's got late rounds. So I like that. What do you got,
Mike?
Mike?
Stash is coming off literally after the show. It was literally just for the show, and I'm done.
So for me, going into this one, sorry, I live in New York.
Somebody's street racing next year.
It's pretty normal.
He's getting ready for
It's pretty normal here, but yeah, for me, this was pretty uncharacteristic for myself. I thought I was going to bet Izzy for sure after watching the last fight. He won most of the rounds, looked dominant in my memory, and then I ran it back, and I was doing a write-up, so I kept just running back different moments, and I think that Izzy could win if he does one vital thing: stop backing up into the fence. Because that's where Pereira kept getting him. That's where he dominated. At range, it was Izzy all day. That's where he almost got the finish in round 1. That jab was landing beautifully, and then he followed it up, wobbled Pereira literally at the end of round 1. Then he didn't do it as much. He started backing up more and more and more, and that's when Pereira found more success round 2. You see Pereira get his own takedown. Then Izzy gets the takedown, right? I think that's going to be another thing. Izzy posted a thing on Instagram, him wearing wrestling shoes. He said some stuff during interviews. I don't think he's going to use it often, but I think similar to the Ngannou-Gane fight, if he feels he's losing, I won't be shocked if he tries to do it. And it would be smart because what happened to Pereira? What was the most noticeable thing? Was the cardio dip after round 3 going into round 4. When Izzy made him grapple, made him defend literally nothing really, but made him defend the grappling. Came into round 4, his output dipped for Pereira. I think he landed 8 significant strikes, and he looked exhausted. He came back in round 5, but that could be a problem if Izzy grapples. I just don't think he's going to do it much. I think on the feet, similar to how Izzy can make adjustments, so can Pereira. And if Pereira just picks up the output at range, there you go, because you're already winning in the clinch. You're winning in the pocket. If you can keep up with the output at range, and he did outstrike Izzy according to the numbers. So I do think he finds the finish. I think it's going to be a knockout again, probably late. I've got 1 unit on Pereira plus 117. And then I did parlay up the alternate total, the over 1.5 when it was minus 400. Use that up. I don't think we're going to get an early finish. I know Izzy wobbled him. I know they're both going to come in here with a chip on their shoulder, but I think we're going to go for a little bit in this fight. So give me Pereira late, and that's what I'm thinking.
Yes, we're all kind of on the same side with that. Not the most confidence I'm feeling. We feel that there is paths to victory for each guy. And what you said, Mike, about the cardio fading for Pereira, that has been like a concern of mine as well. That's why I wasn't so confident in him just as a straight pick. But I do like the overs. I think we're going to see like a lot of championship rematches with two guys who've got a history where they're tentative early. Nobody wants to make that first mistake, and Poatan doesn't want to get hit, and almost finish like he did at the end of round 1 of the first fight. Adesanya doesn't want any contact with him, at any point in this fight. So I think he's going to play a more evasive game once again. And I think it's just going to have to be him playing a perfect fight. But, Pereira's not like a lot of power punchers that we see at the weight class, right? Like a lot of power punchers that get weaker and weaker and weaker, less and less likely as the fight goes on. Whereas Poatan seems to even recharge his batteries after being gassed in round 3 and come back in round 5 and get the finishing sequence. So, dicey fight, man. Hats off to anybody who has a strong lean on this fight. I certainly don't. I just like those overs. And that is it. We got to the 13-fight card. Another successful addition to the panel. Shout out to all 33 of you guys in the live chat. You guys are the best. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe. Good luck on all of your betting action. Make sure you go and look at the description. Follow my guy, LouBetya, our venerable guest this weekend, carrying the strength of 2 men since we lost Liam Pick's fights here. But he did a damn good job. So, Lou, the floor is yours to fill us in on all of the content you have coming out in the next couple of days.
First of all, thank you for having me on the panel. Mike, I miss doing content with you. I'm not going to lie. Pat, also, thank you for putting us in order of facial hair. I think that was very classy of you.
That's what I wanted to do.
We never know show to show, but I think it worked out this way. Glad to do this panel. Look forward to this card. Okay, tomorrow's busy. I got 3 shows. 5:30, show number 50, the happy hour with the Monk Petition and myself. Monk's got to do, I don't know what the hell he's got to do Friday. It's Easter weekend, so he's lying to me probably. He's
hiding Easter eggs.
He's doing something, but he's leaving. He's hanging out with his kids, so he's unavailable Friday. It's in the happy hour, 5:30, 7 o'clock. I don't know if we're gonna go live or not, but props to consider that maybe bet with Brady and with Luke, SWR betting. So very excited for that, Brady and Luke. And then at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, this is the second show of my show dedicated to same game parlays. The show's name is Working Title. I just don't know yet. Same game profitability is what I called it last week to have a name. I didn't want to have a host. Then Gordo said, I'd like to co-host with you. And I don't know how you turned down Gordo. So Gordo will be my host going forward. And Gordo and I will break down the best of the same game parlays specific to DraftKings. Looking for weird value. Also, if you ever do these things, sometimes just, they give you the pre-programmed parlays like this guy round 2 KO. Play around with these kind of things that you like in the same games. Sometimes you get 100 points extra. You get 50 points extra. Like, you just don't know. Like, it's still UFC DFS or UFC same games are still really new for DraftKings. So a lot of times these prices don't align. So take a look, and Gordo and I will guide you through them tomorrow night, 10 o'clock. And then I don't know who's on best bets this week with Brady. It could be me. It could be you, Pat. He literally has no idea. All I know is who's winning right now.
You are good, sir. I think I'm still in last place in that goddamn thing. He hit me up too late, man. He hit me up today to do it this weekend, but I'll be on with our fellow competitors in that, Johnny K and Cody. I'll be on their pre-fight show on Saturday. So I'll be there.
I hope they 9th and 8th. Just keep pushing them down.
I gotta at least beat those assholes. That's who I gotta beat. I don't know if I'm gonna ever take you. I've dug myself into a big deficit trying to beat you with these long shot props.
Somebody's
these fronts in round 3s.
Oh, dude, somebody's gonna hit I'm telling you, man. Somebody's gonna hit a 20-1, a 25-1 prop the next few weeks. All of a sudden, I'll be in like 5th place. So I'm just enjoying it while it lasts.
All right, Mike, CouchWarrior podcast. What
Yes,
do you got
sir.
going on the rest of the week, my friend? I know you did a show last night with Narco, right? That was last night.
Yes,
correct?
sir. I went live last night with Narco Cup to break down the card, similar to what we did tonight. Make sure to run that back. Narco super sharp. That was a good time. Tomorrow, today's Wednesday, right? Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna put out a PFL video tomorrow. Gonna have to figure out what time because I'm getting a root canal at like 3 o'clock. So we're gonna see what happens there. Gonna be a fun one.
Can you do it after the root canal, like when you still have no feeling in your mouth?
I feel like probably no. So it's gonna
That'll be
have to
funny,
be
though.
before.
That'll be good entertainment value. Lou, tell him it's a good idea. Tell him that's good radio.
I could try. I could try, but yeah. So I'm gonna try to do a PFL video. There's not much I love this week for it. Aries FC ACA line should come out. I probably can't do a video, but I'll do write-ups and I'll do bets. So make sure to be following me at CouchWarrior Pod. Subscribe on the channel, CouchWarrior Podcast, and the Substack now, CouchWarrior Pod as well. That's where I'm doing my write-ups now.
His write-ups are very good, by the way.
Doing my best. I went in on the Izzy one.
No, they're good. They're
Thank
really
you,
good.
Lou. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to follow CouchWarrior Podcast. Doing the Lord's work. I don't know how he does it. The man must just never sleep. He manages his time well enough to do not only UFC content all week, but Bellator, PFL, ACA, Aries FC, CFFC.
Killed Bellator last week.
Yeah,
I got to gloat a little bit. Luke Trainer, plus 326, 2 units.
I know he killed it because me and him were talking during it, and he's like hitting every dog because every hype train in Bellator loses. But no joke, like go check out his Substack. I don't like promoting Substacks because most of them out there are like awful. Like they're so wordy or they're so poorly written, like grammatically. Mike does a good job, Blake, and I wouldn't. I told him that.
He's a highly educated man. He's a highly educated man.
The second he put it out, I'm like, dude, this is really good, man. I'm like,
thank you, brother.
Really good.
Still figuring out the style, but I like how it's going.
Awesome. So again, I appreciate all of you guys in the live chat. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Good luck in all of your betting action. I'll be back in the next couple of days for the best bets and props, and I'll catch you guys then. Cheers.